The call came at 2:47 a.m. On a Tuesday in February, jolting Dr. Sarah Chen awake from a sleep so thin it barely qualified as rest. She grabbed her phone from the milk crate serving as a nightstand, squinting at the unknown number glowing in the darkness of her one-bedroom Chicago apartment. "This is Dr. Chen," she mumbled, her voice rough with exhaustion. "You're a veterinarian." It wasn't a question. The male voice on the other end was deep, controlled, but vibrating with something Sarah recognized immediately, desperation wrapped in authority. "Yes. Who is? My dog is dying. Every emergency hospital in Chicago turned me away. They said it's too late. They said I should let him go." A pause. "I won't." Sarah sat up, the cheap mattress springs squeaking beneath her. In the other room, she could hear her 5-year-old daughter Emma breathing softly in sleep. "Sir, if multiple veterinarians have assessed your animal and recommended euthanasia, I'll pay you $100,000. The number detonated in the silence. Sarah's hand tightened on the phone. "I'm sorry, what?" $100,000. Cash. Tonight. If you save him." The man's voice dropped lower. "I know what you're thinking. This is a scam." "It's not. I'm sending a car. It'll be there in 8 minutes. Bring whatever you need." "Sir, I don't even know what's wrong with Antifreeze poisoning. 3 days ago. Liver and kidney failure. Seizures. He's unconscious now. Jaundiced. Not responding." The clinical recitation was precise, but beneath it Sarah heard the tremor. "You're my last call, Dr. Chen. Everyone else gave up. Will you?" Sarah looked at the eviction notice on her dresser. She looked at the empty refrigerator visible through her open bedroom door. She thought about Emma's winter coat with a broken zipper, the one Sarah kept meaning to replace but couldn't afford. She thought about the $180,000 in student loans that grew faster than she could pay them. "What's the address?" "The car will bring you." 8 minutes. The line went dead. Sarah stood in her dark bedroom, her heart hammering. This was insane. Dangerous. She was a mobile veterinarian barely scraping by, not some miracle worker who made house calls to strangers offering 6 figures. But a dog was dying, and she had sworn an oath. She scribbled a note for Mrs. Kozlov next door, emergency call, back by morning, Emma's asleep, and grabbed her veterinary kit. The black SUV, waiting at the curb, had windows, so dark Sarah couldn't see inside. The door opened as she approached. A man the size of a refrigerator sat in the driver's seat. He didn't speak, just gestured for her to get in. If you're enjoying the story so far, don't forget to hit the like button and subscribe. Drop a comment telling me where in the world you're watching from. I love hearing from you. 20 minutes later, they pulled up to a Gold Coast mansion that looked like it had been transported stone by stone from Italy. Wrought iron gates, limestone facade, security cameras tracking their approach with mechanical precision. A man stood at the entrance. Not the owner, Sarah could tell by his posture. Security. He wore a suit that fit too well and an earpiece that caught the light. "Dr. Chen. This way." They didn't use the front door. They went through a side entrance into a kitchen that looked like a magazine spread. Marble countertops, professional appliances, heated floors. But all Sarah saw was the man kneeling in the center of the room and the massive dog lying motionless on a blanket beside him. The man looked up. He was younger than she expected, mid-30s, with dark hair and darker eyes. His white dress shirt was rolled to the elbows, revealing forearms marked with scars. His hands, large and capable of violence, Sarah instinctively recognized, were cradling the dog's head with heartbreaking gentleness. "You came," he said. His voice was the same one from the phone, command and desperation in equal measure. "I'm here." Sarah dropped to her knees across from him, already assessing. "Cane Corso. Male. Approximately 120 pounds. Unconscious. Breathing shallow and irregular. Mucous membranes yellow, severe jaundice." She pulled out her stethoscope. "His name is Dante," the man said quietly. "He's 4 years old. He's all I have." Sarah placed the stethoscope against Dante's chest. Heartbeat weak and arrhythmic. She palpated his abdomen, distended, fluid accumulation. His temperature was 96 degrees. Hypothermia. His gums were tacky gray. Everything about this dog screamed end-stage organ failure. "I'm Sarah Chen," she said, meeting the man's eyes. "And you are?" "Luca Moretti." The name hit her like cold water. Moretti. One of those families. The kind the Tribune wrote about in careful language. The kind that owned half the city's construction contracts and the other half's politicians. She was kneeling in a Mafia boss's kitchen, trying to save his dying dog. Mr. Moretti, I need you to understand something. Sarah pulled out her penlight, checking Dante's pupillary response. Sluggish. The vets who told you to let him go weren't being cruel. They were being realistic. Antifreeze poisoning causes irreversible damage. 3 days post-exposure with symptoms this severe. Can you save him or not? Luca's voice was quiet, but it carried absolute authority. Sarah looked at Dante. She looked at the labs Luca handed her. BUN over 150, creatinine at 9, liver enzymes 10 times normal. These were numbers incompatible with life. But she'd seen miracles before. Rare. 1 in 100. Dogs that shouldn't have survived but did because someone refused to give up. I can try, Sarah said. But I need equipment. Supplies. Things I don't have in my kit. Name it. 4 pumps. Oxygen. A feeding tube. Plasma. Medications that cost thousands of dollars. Laboratory equipment. Mr. Moretti, what you're asking for is intensive care that would cost. I said name it. He pulled out his phone. It'll be here within the hour. Sarah stared at him. You can't just watch me. She made the list. Send it. And 43 minutes later, a truck pulled up with equipment that shouldn't have been possible to acquire in the middle of the night. 4 pumps still in boxes. Medications from veterinary distributors that didn't open until 9 a.m. A portable oxygen concentrator. Everything. How did you? Sarah started. I know people, Luca said simply. Save him. The next 18 hours were a blur of medical precision and desperate hope. Sarah converted Luca's kitchen into an intensive care unit. She placed 4 catheters in both of Dante's front legs, running aggressive fluid therapy to flush the toxins. She administered chelating agents, liver protectants, anti-nausea medications. She placed a feeding tube and started nutritional support. She monitored his blood pressure every 30 minutes. Luca never left. He sat on the floor beside Dante, one hand always touching his dog. He didn't sleep, didn't eat, just watched with those dark, unreadable eyes as Sarah worked. At hour 6, Dante's temperature started rising. 97. 98. At hour 10, his heartbeat strengthened. Still irregular, but stronger. At hour 14, his eyes opened. Just a flutter, but Sarah saw it. Come on, boy, she whispered, checking his blood pressure again. Fight! At hour 17, Dante lifted his head. Luca inhaled sharply, a sound like a drowning man breaking the surface. His hand tightened on Dante's neck. That's it, Sarah said, her voice cracking with exhaustion and hope. That's it, Dante. Come back. At hour 18, Dante's tail moved, a single weak thump against the floor. Luca made a sound Sarah had never heard from a man, something between a laugh and a sob. He pressed his forehead against Dante's, his shoulders shaking. Sarah sat back on her heels, staring at the dog who shouldn't be alive, who by every statistical probability should have died hours ago. But he was breathing steadily now. His gums were pinking up. His eyes were tracking movement. She had done it. Against every odd, she had brought him back. Dr. Chen. Luca's voice was rough. He looked up at her, and the expression on his face made Sarah's breath catch. It wasn't gratitude. It was something bigger, more intense. Something that felt like being seen by a predator deciding whether you were prey or pack. You saved him. He's not out of the woods yet, Sarah said quickly. He'll need round-the-clock care for at least another week. Monitoring. Medications. Lab work every day to track his kidney and liver function. You'll stay here? Sarah blinked. I'm sorry. You'll stay. In the house. With him. Luca stood up, towering over her. I have a guest room. Private bathroom. Whatever you need. Mr. Moretti, I can't just. I'm not asking. His tone shifted from grateful to absolute. You brought him back from death. You're the only person who knows what he needs. You'll stay until he's recovered. I'll pay you $10,000 a day. Sarah's mouth went dry. $10,000 a day for a week was $70,000, plus the $100,000 he'd promised. That was money that would erase her debts. secure Emma's future, save her clinic. But the way Luca was looking at her, like she was a possession now, something valuable that needed to be kept close, made her skin prickle. "I have a daughter," Sarah said. "I can't just leave her. Bring her here. There's plenty of room. I'll have someone pick her up." "You'll have someone." Sarah stood up, backing away. "Mr. Moretti, I appreciate the offer, but I can't move into your house. I'll come back twice a day to check on Dante, adjust his medications." Luca stepped toward her. He didn't touch her, but his presence was overwhelming. "Dr. Chen." "Sarah." Her name in his mouth sounded like ownership. "You gave me back something I thought I'd lost. The only living thing I trust in this world. Do you understand what that means?" "That you're grateful," Sarah said, her voice steadier than she felt. "Grateful." He smiled, and it was terrifying, not because it was cruel, but because it was genuine. Warm. Possessive. Gratitude is flowers and a thank you card. This is beyond gratitude. This is a debt I can never repay. Which means you're under my protection now, whether you want it or not. The temperature in the room dropped. Sarah understood then, with crystalline clarity, what she'd done. She hadn't just saved a dog. She'd saved the most important thing in the world to a man who owned half of Chicago's underworld. A man who repaid debts with the same ruthless efficiency he collected them. "I don't need protection," Sarah said quietly. Luca reached into his pocket. He pulled out his phone and pulled up something. He turned the screen toward her. It was a photo of her apartment building. The broken buzzer. The cracked front steps. And standing on the corner, a man Sarah recognized. Marcus Webb, her former business partner. Except in this photo, Marcus was talking to two men who looked like they'd walked out of central casting for mob enforcers. "Your ex-partner has been asking questions about you," Lucas said calmly. "About your clinic. Your finances. He's trying to buy out your business for pennies. And he's hired some very unpleasant people to encourage you to sell." Sarah's blood ran cold. "How do you know?" "Because I know everything about you now, Dr. Sarah Chen. I know about Emma. I know about Mrs. Kozlov. I know about your student loans and your eviction notice, and the fact that you've been eating cereal for dinner because you can't afford groceries." He stepped closer. "I know you're drowning, and I'm throwing you a life raft. Take it." This wasn't gratitude. This was a cage made of gold. "And if I refuse?" Sarah asked. Luca's expression didn't change. "I don't think you will. Because you're smart. You understand that I'm not just offering you money. I'm offering you a solution to every problem in your life. Your debts. Erased. The men threatening you. Gone. Your daughter's future. Secured." He gestured to Dante, who was now sitting up, his tail wagging weakly. "All you have to do is what you do best. Take care of him. Take care of the things I love." Sarah looked at the dog. She looked at Luca Moretti. She thought about Emma sleeping in their apartment, unaware that her mother had just walked into the spider's web of the city's most dangerous man. She had saved Dante's life, and in doing so, she'd sold her own freedom. "1 week," Sarah said, her voice hollow. "I'll stay for 1 week. But after that, we'll see," Luca said. He smiled again, and it was the smile of a man who had already won. "Go get your daughter, Dr. Chen. Welcome to your new life." The guest room in Luca Moretti's mansion was larger than Sarah's entire apartment. Floor-to-ceiling windows overlooked a private garden dusted with February snow. The bed was a California king with sheets that probably cost more than her monthly rent. The adjoining bathroom had heated marble floors and a shower with 6 different heads. Sarah stood in the center of the room at 6:30 a.m., still wearing yesterday's scrubs, and felt like she was standing in a museum. Everything was too perfect, too expensive, too much. The overnight bag one of Luca's men had retrieved from her apartment sat unopened on the luggage rack. She hadn't slept. She'd spent the last 4 hours monitoring Dante's vital signs, adjusting 4 drip rates, and trying not to think about what she'd agreed to. A knock on the door made her jump. "Dr. Chen." A woman's voice accented, Eastern European maybe. "I have breakfast for you." Sarah opened the door. A woman in her 50s stood there holding a tray. She had steel-gray hair pulled into a bun and eyes that assessed Sarah with the efficiency of a general surveying a battlefield. "I'm Nina. I manage the house." She walked past Sarah without waiting for an invitation, setting the tray on the desk. Coffee, fresh fruit, eggs that looked like they'd been prepared by a professional chef. Mr. Moretti says you have a daughter. 5 years old. Emma. The sound of her daughter's name in the stranger's mouth made Sarah's protective instincts flare. Yes. I've prepared the room next to yours. Pink or yellow? Sarah blinked. I'm sorry. For the walls. Mr. Moretti wants to know if your daughter prefers pink or yellow. He's having painters come this afternoon. That's not. Sarah stopped herself. She was exhausted, running on adrenaline, and the surreal understanding that she was now living in the house of a man who could have her apartment repainted within hours. Nina, I appreciate the gesture, but Emma and I won't be staying long enough to need renovations. Nina's expression didn't change. Mr. Moretti believes you'll be staying as long as Dante needs you. Dante is very important to him. Therefore, you are very important to him. She moved toward the door, then paused. A word of advice, Dr. Chen. When Mr. Moretti decides to protect something, he doesn't do it halfway. You can fight it, or you can accept it. Fighting is exhausting. She left before Sarah could respond. Sarah sank onto the bed, staring at the breakfast tray. The coffee was still steaming, made exactly how she liked it. 2 sugars, splash of cream. How did Luca know that? How much digging had he done into her life in the 18 hours since she'd walked into his house? Her phone buzzed. Mrs. Kozlov, Mamachka, men came this morning. Big car. Said they work for you. They took Emma to school. Very nice. Gave me $500 for watching her last night. Too much. I told them too much. Sarah's hand started shaking. She dialed Luca's number. He'd programmed it into her phone while she was setting up Dante's 4. He answered on the first ring. Sarah, it's Dante. You sent men to my apartment. Her voice was low, tight with controlled fury. You had them take my daughter to school. Emma needed to get to school. You were busy. I handled it. You don't get to handle my daughter. Sarah stood up, pacing. You don't send strangers to pick up a 5-year-old child without asking her mother first. Marcus is outside your apartment building right now. Luca's voice was calm, factual. He brought 2 friends. They were planning to wait for you to come home. I put 4 of my men on your block instead. Marcus left 30 minutes ago. Sarah stopped pacing. The anger drained out of her, replaced by ice-cold fear. What? The men I sent to get Emma weren't strangers. They were protection. Carlo has 3 daughters of his own. He drove Emma to school, walked her inside, confirmed with her teacher that she arrived safely. He'll pick her up at 3 o'clock and bring her here. Here! Sarah's voice cracked. Luca, I haven't even told Emma we're staying here. She's going to be terrified when some man she doesn't know, so call her school. Tell her teacher you've hired a driver. Make it normal. A pause. Or I can have Nina do it. She's good at making things normal. Sarah wanted to scream. She wanted to throw the phone across the room. But underneath the fury was a sick, twisting gratitude. Because Marcus had been outside her building. The former partner who tried to steal her client list, who'd sent threatening emails about buying out her practice for nothing, who'd made her last 3 months a living hell, he'd been waiting for her. And Luca had stopped him. This is not okay, Sarah said quietly. You can't just take over my life because I saved your dog. I'm not taking over your life. I'm protecting it. Luca's tone shifted, became softer, almost gentle. Sarah, you walked into my house at 3 in the morning and performed a miracle. You brought back something everyone said was dead. Do you know what that makes you to me? Your employee, Sarah said firmly. Someone you're paying to provide veterinary care. No. The word was absolute. It makes you family. And I protect family. The line went dead before Sarah could respond. Emma arrived at 3:47 p.m. in the back of a black SUV, holding the hand of a mountain of a man who looked like he could bench press a car. Sarah met them at the side entrance, her heart in her throat. Mommy! Emma launched herself into Sarah's arms. Carlos says there's a big doggy here. Can I see him? Is he nice? Sarah held her daughter tight, breathing in the familiar scent of her strawberry shampoo. Over Emma's head, she met Carlo's eyes. He was in his 40s, with kind eyes that crinkled at the corners when he smiled. She talked about horses the whole drive. Carlo said in a deep, accented voice. Italian, Sarah realized. Told me about her teacher, her best friend Sophie, her favorite color, purple, not pink. Very important distinction. Thank you, Sarah said quietly. For being kind to her. Carlo nodded. Mr. Moretti was very clear. The little one is precious cargo. Precious cargo gets the best care. He handed Sarah a backpack. Her things. From your apartment. Nina packed clothes, toys, her stuffed rabbit, the one with the missing ear. Emma said you can't sleep without it. Emma wiggled out of Sarah's arms. Can I see the doggy now? He's very sick, Bug. We have to be gentle and quiet, okay? I'm always gentle with animals, Emma said seriously. She took Sarah's hand, and together they walked into the kitchen. Dante was awake, lying on a thick orthopedic bed that definitely hadn't been there this morning. His head lifted when they entered. His tail gave a weak wag. Luca sat beside him, one hand resting on Dante's neck. He looked up when they entered, and Sarah saw his expression shift when he saw Emma. Something softened in those dark, dangerous eyes. You must be Emma, Luca said. Emma hid behind Sarah's leg, suddenly shy. Are you the boss? Luca's mouth quirked. I suppose I am. And this is Dante. He's really big, Emma whispered. Bigger than Mrs. Kozlov's cat. Much bigger. Would you like to say hello? Emma looked up at Sarah, asking permission with her eyes. Sarah wanted to say no, wanted to grab her daughter and run from this house, this man, this life that was spiraling out of her control. But she saw the way Luca was looking at Emma, not with threat, but with a careful, almost tender attention. The way someone looked at something fragile that needed protecting. You can say hello, Sarah said. But remember, he's very sick. Gentle touches only. Emma crept forward. She sat down cross-legged in front of Dante, her small hand reaching out to touch his massive head. Dante's tail thumped harder. Hi, Dante, Emma said softly. My mommy saved you. She's the best doctor in the whole world. Luca met Sarah's eyes over Emma's head. Yes, he said quietly. She is. The first week became 2 weeks, then 3. Dante improved every day. His liver values started dropping. His kidney function stabilized. He started eating on his own, then walking, then playing. Sarah documented everything with the clinical precision of a veterinarian who knew she needed to prove her worth, to justify the obscene amount of money Luca was paying her. But somewhere around day 10, she stopped counting the money. She stopped thinking about leaving. Because life in Luca Moretti's mansion had become a new kind of normal. Emma thrived. She had her own room, painted yellow, after Nina asked her directly. She had new clothes that actually fit. She had fresh fruit at breakfast, and Carlo drove her to school in a car with working heat. She started drawing pictures of Dante, filling sketchbooks Luca bought her without asking. Sarah tried to maintain boundaries. She ate meals in her room. She kept her interactions with Luca strictly professional. She focused on Dante's care and nothing else. But Luca was everywhere. He started joining her for Dante's morning examinations, asking intelligent questions about liver enzyme trends and renal function. He sat with her during the late-night medication doses, bringing coffee that was always the perfect temperature. He listened when she talked about veterinary medicine with a focus that made her feel like she was the only person in the world. And slowly, insidiously, Sarah began to feel safe. If you're hooked on this story, make sure to subscribe and turn on notifications so you never miss an upload. Your support means everything and helps me bring you more emotional stories like this one. The moment she realized how dangerous that safety was came on day 19. Sarah walked into the kitchen at 2 a.m. to check Dante's hydration status and found Luca sitting at the island, staring at his phone with an expression that reminded her exactly who he was. Is everything okay? She asked. Luca looked up. The softness he showed Emma, the careful gentleness he used with Dante, it was gone. In its place was ice. Marcus Webb is in the hospital. Sarah's blood went cold. What happened? He had an accident. Fell down some stairs at a construction site. Luca's tone was perfectly neutral. Broke both his legs. He'll recover, but he's decided to move to Arizona for his health. The sale of your clinic is no longer an issue. The room tilted. Sarah gripped the edge of the counter. You did this. I didn't say that. Luca, He was threatening you. Luca stood up, walking around the island toward her. He was spreading rumors, trying to destroy your reputation, planning to sue you for a breach of contract that didn't exist. He stopped in front of her. He was hurting you. I stopped it. By putting him in the hospital. Sarah's voice rose. By breaking his legs. By ensuring he'll never hurt you again. Luca's expression didn't change. Would you prefer I'd done nothing? Let him continue. Let him take everything you've worked for. I would prefer you to ask me first. Sarah was shaking now. You don't get to make those decisions for me. You don't get to hurt people on my behalf. Yes, I do. The words were quiet, absolute. Because you're under my protection. And people who threaten what's mine learn very quickly not to do it again. I'm not yours. Sarah backed away from him. I'm your employee. I saved your dog. That's it. That doesn't give you the right to. You live in my house. You eat my food. Your daughter sleeps in a room I provided. I pay your bills. I keep you safe. Luca followed her step for step. What exactly do you think that makes you if not mine? Sarah's back hit the wall. Luca stopped inches away, caging her in without touching her. She could smell him. Sandalwood and something darker, more dangerous. This is what protection looks like, Sarah, Luca said softly. It's not pretty. It's not clean. But it's absolute. And you can hate me for it, but you can't pretend you don't need it. Because the world is full of people like Marcus. People who see your kindness as weakness. Your compassion as something to exploit. And I will not allow that to happen. Not to you. Not to Emma. You're scaring me, Sarah whispered. Good. Luca's hand came up, his fingers brushing her cheek. The touch was gentle, reverent. Fear means you understand. Fear means you're smart enough to recognize that I'm not the hero of the story. I'm the monster who keeps the other monsters away. He stepped back, releasing her from the cage of his presence. Dante's doing well. He doesn't need hourly monitoring anymore. You could leave if you wanted. Take Emma. Go back to your apartment, your life. He walked toward the door, then paused. But you won't, because you know that out there, you're vulnerable. In here, you're untouchable. He left her standing against the wall, her heart hammering, her mind screaming at her to run. But he was right, and that terrified her more than anything else. The breaking point came on day 23. Sarah was reviewing Dante's latest blood work, completely normal now, a genuine miracle, when Nina knocked on her bedroom door. Dr. Chen, there are men here to see you. Sarah's stomach dropped. What men? They say they're from the bank. About your student loans. Sarah followed Nina downstairs to the formal living room. Two men in suits sat on the leather sofa, looking deeply uncomfortable. Luca stood by the fireplace, his arms crossed, watching them with the expression of a predator deciding whether to strike. Dr. Chen, the older man said, standing up quickly. I'm Robert Mitchell from Chicago Federal Savings. We need to discuss your loan account. Sarah's hands clenched. I'm current on my payments. You can't. Your loans have been paid in full, Mitchell interrupted. All of them. Student loans, credit cards, the outstanding balance on your clinic lease. Everything. Total disbursement of $197,000. The room spun. Sarah looked at Luca. He met her eyes calmly. I didn't authorize that, Sarah said. There's been a mistake. No mistake, the younger banker said. Payment was made this morning. Cash transfer. We just need you to sign the release forms confirming the debt satisfaction. I'm not signing anything, Sarah said. Her voice was shaking. I didn't ask for this. I didn't agree to this. Sarah! Luca's voice was gentle. Sign the papers. No. She turned to face him fully. You had no right. I had every right. You saved Dante. You've been caring for him for 3 weeks. The $100,000 I promised you for saving him, plus the $10,000 per day for 23 days. That's $330,000. I'm simply paying you and handling your debts as a courtesy. A courtesy? Sarah's laugh was jagged. You're buying me. You're erasing my debts, so I'm beholden to you. I'm freeing you, Luca corrected. The debt was a chain around your neck. I cut it. Without asking me. Sarah was shouting now. She didn't care that the bankers were staring. You don't get to make these decisions. You don't get to control my life. Luca dismissed the bankers with a gesture. They fled, leaving the paperwork on the coffee table. The moment the door closed, Luca crossed the room to her. I'm not controlling your life. I'm protecting it. There's a difference. No, there isn't. Sarah's eyes burned with angry tears. You've taken over everything. My apartment. My daughter. My debts. You've made it impossible for me to leave. That's not protection, Luca. That's possession. Yes. The admission hung in the air. Luca stepped closer, his voice dropping. I possess you. I claimed you the moment you walked into this house and brought Dante back from death. You gave me back the only thing in this world I love, and in exchange, I'm giving you everything. Safety, security, a future. For you. For Emma. I don't want this. Sarah's voice cracked. I want my life back. I want to make my own choices. I want to not be terrified every time you smile at me because I know what you're capable of. Then leave. Luca gestured to the door. Walk out. Right now. Take Emma. I'll have Carlo drive you anywhere you want. You're not a prisoner. Sarah stared at him. If you leave, I'll respect it. But I'll still protect you. From a distance. I'll still make sure Marcus never comes near you. That debt collectors never call. That Emma has what she needs. His jaw tightened. Because that's what I do for the people I've claimed. And I've claimed you, Sarah. Whether you're in this house or 1,000 miles away. The tears spilled over. This isn't gratitude. This is obsession. Yes, Lucas said simply. You've saved the only thing I have left to love in this world. That kind of debt creates obsession. And I'm not sorry for it. Sarah turned away, staring at the paperwork on the table. Her freedom, signed away with a pen. Or was it? If the debts were really paid, she had options she hadn't had in years. She could leave Chicago. Start over somewhere Luca Moretti's reach didn't extend. But as she thought about Emma's smile this morning at breakfast, about the safety of these walls, about the fact that for the first time in 5 years she wasn't drowning, she realized the terrible truth. She didn't want to leave, and that was the most terrifying thing of all. I need time, Sarah whispered. To think. Take all the time you need, Lucas said. But know this. My protection isn't conditional on you staying. It's not a transaction. It's a fact. You're mine now, and nothing you do will change that. He left her alone with the paperwork and the weight of a freedom that felt more like a golden cage than liberation. The decision crystallized on day 27, not with drama, but with a kindergarten permission slip. Emma bounded into Sarah's room at 7 a.m., waving a crumpled piece of paper. Mommy, field trip to the aquarium. Can I go? Please, please, please. Sarah took the form, scanning it automatically. Cost, $35. Chaperone volunteers needed. Return the signed form and payment by Friday. $35. A month ago, that would have meant choosing between the field trip and groceries. Now, Sarah had an envelope in her dresser drawer containing $10,000 in cash, 1 day's payment from Luca, money she hadn't asked for and didn't know how to refuse. Of course you can go, Bug, Sarah said, signing the form. Will you come? As a chaperone? Emma's eyes were wide, hopeful. Sophie's mom is coming. And Jacob's dad. Sarah's throat tightened. When was the last time she'd been able to take a day off to chaperone a field trip? When was the last time she'd been just a mom, not a veterinarian drowning in debt and fear? I'll ask, Sarah said carefully. But Dante still needs. Dante's fine. Luca's voice from the doorway made them both jump. He was already dressed. Charcoal suit that fit him like a weapon. His latest blood work is perfect. He's eating normally. Playing. He doesn't need medical supervision anymore. Emma ran to him, throwing her arms around his legs. Mr. Luca, can my mommy come to the aquarium? Luca's hand settled on Emma's head, gentle. Yes, I'll make sure of it. His eyes met Sarah's over Emma's blonde curls. In fact, I'll come with you. Sarah's stomach dropped. That's not necessary. I've never been to the shed aquarium, Lucas said smoothly. Dante would enjoy the outing. Service dogs are allowed. It would be good for his rehabilitation. Emma gasped. Dante can come too? Mommy, can he? Sarah saw the trap closing. Saw the way Luca had maneuvered the conversation so that refusing would disappoint her daughter. She saw the small smile playing at the corner of his mouth. He knew exactly what he'd done. We'll discuss it, Sarah said tightly. After Emma skipped away to get ready for school, Sarah closed the bedroom door and turned on Luca. You can't come to her field trip. Why not? Because you're... Sarah gestured helplessly at him. At the suit that cost more than most people's monthly salary. At the aura of danger that clung to him like expensive cologne. You're you. The other parents will ask questions. Emma's teacher will ask questions. I'm a family friend who's generously volunteering to chaperone. Luca stepped closer. What's wrong with that? You know what's wrong with it. You're Luca Moretti. People know that name. People will recognize you. Then they'll know that Emma Chen is under my protection. His voice hardened, which means no one will ever think about touching her. Ever. The protectiveness in his tone sent chills down Sarah's spine, not from fear, but from something more complicated. Something that felt dangerously like gratitude mixing with attraction. This is what I'm talking about, Sarah said quietly. You're taking over. Emma's starting to see you as family. She hugged you just now like it was natural. Like I'm what? Luca's eyes were intense. A father figure? Is that what terrifies you? Yes. The word stuck in Sarah's throat. Because Emma's father had died when she was 6 months old. A car accident. Sudden and brutal. Emma had no memory of him. No male figure in her life, except for Mrs. Kozlov's grandson, who visited twice a year. And now there was Luca, who bought Emma sketchbooks, who asked about her day at school, who looked at her with a fierceness that said he would burn the city down before letting harm come to her. Emma's attachment to you is a problem, Sarah said. Because when we leave, you're not leaving. Luca's certainty was maddening. You signed the debt release forms. Sarah had. 2 days ago, after Nina had gently pointed out that refusing wouldn't make the debt reappear, it would just be an empty gesture of pride. The papers sat in Sarah's drawer, signed and notarized. Her student loans, her credit cards, the predatory clinic lease Marcus had trapped her in, all erased. I signed the forms because you'd already paid the debt, Sarah said. That doesn't mean I'm staying permanently. Where will you go? The question hung in the air. Sarah had been asking herself the same thing for days. Her apartment lease was up in 2 weeks, she got in the notice. She could renew, but the rent had increased by $400. Her clinic was still hemorrhaging money, even without the lease payment, because she had no clients left after Marcus's sabotage. She had money now. Enough to start over. But start over where? Doing what? I don't know yet, Sarah admitted. But Emma and I can't stay here forever. We're not. You're not what? My family? Luca's hand came up, cupping her cheek. Sarah should have pulled away. She didn't. Sarah, I've spent 3 weeks watching you be a mother. Watching you care for Dante with the same fierce love you show Emma. Watching you try so hard to maintain boundaries that we both know are already gone. His thumb traced her cheekbone. Sarah's breath caught. You think I don't see you? Luca continued, his voice dropping lower. You think I don't notice the way you've stopped flinching when I walk into a room? The way you smile at Nina's terrible jokes? The way you let Emma call this place home? That's not, Sarah started, but the protest was weak. I'm not asking you to love me, Luca said. I'm asking you to stop fighting the inevitable. You're safe here. Emma's happy here. Dante adores you. And he paused, something vulnerable flickering across his face. I haven't felt like I had a family since my mother died. And now I walk into the kitchen in the morning and Emma's showing Nina her drawings. I come home and hear you laughing with Carlo about some story from veterinary school. This house has been a mausoleum for 5 years. You brought it to life. Sarah felt tears prickling her eyes. You're manipulating me. I'm being honest with you. Luca's other hand came up, framing her face. I want you to stay. Not because of debt. Not because of obligation, but because he gestured to the space between them. This works. We work. You terrify me, Sarah whispered. I know. Luca leaned in, his forehead resting against hers. But not as much as I did 3 weeks ago. He was right. God help her, he was right. The fear had morphed into something else. Awareness, hypervigilance, a constant electric charge in the air when he was near. But it wasn't the paralyzing terror of that first night anymore. The aquarium, Sarah said, changing the subject because the alternative was admitting things she wasn't ready to admit. "You're really coming?" "Yes. With Dante. As a family." He pulled back, smiling. "Unless you prefer I send armed guards to follow the school bus from a distance." Despite herself, Sarah laughed. It came out shaky, breathless. "You're impossible." "I'm determined." Luca's thumb brushed her lower lip, a touch so light it might have been imagined. "There's a difference." He left her standing in the bedroom, her face still warm from his hands, her heart hammering against her ribs. The Shed Aquarium field trip was chaos wrapped in parental anxiety and the smell of fish. 23 kindergartners, 6 parent chaperones, 1 stress teacher, and Luca Moretti standing in the middle of the jellyfish exhibit with a 120-pound cane corso wearing a service dog vest. Emma held Sarah's hand on one side and Luca's on the other, bouncing with excitement as bioluminescent jellyfish pulsed in the dark water. "They're like aliens," Emma breathed. "Mommy, are they aliens?" "They're nidarians," Sarah said, then caught herself. "Too technical. They're ocean animals that have been around for millions of years. Longer than dinosaurs," a little boy named Jacob asked, pressing his face against the glass. "Much longer," Luca said. His hand was steady in Emma's, and Sarah realized with a jolt that he looked completely natural. Comfortable, like he chaperoned kindergarten field trips every week instead of running a criminal empire. "Mr. Moretti," Emma's teacher, Ms. Rodriguez, approached cautiously. She was young, mid-20s, and clearly trying to reconcile the man in front of her with whatever she'd heard about the Moretti name. "Thank you so much for volunteering. And for bringing Dante." The children are fascinated. As if on cue, 3 kids swarmed around Dante, who sat patiently while they petted his massive head. Carlo hovered nearby. He'd come as additional security, which meant he was scanning the crowd with the intensity of a Secret Service agent. "It's my pleasure," Lucas said smoothly. "Emma talks about school constantly. I wanted to see what inspired such enthusiasm." Ms. Rodriguez smiled, but Sarah saw the flicker of calculation in her eyes. The teacher wasn't stupid. She was adding up the expensive suit, the service dog that had clearly cost thousands to train, the bodyguard pretending to be interested in the otter exhibit. "Emma's lucky to have such involved family," Ms. Rodriguez said carefully. "Family." Sarah opened her mouth to correct her, to explain that Luca wasn't family, that this was temporary, that. "We're lucky to have her," Lucas said, cutting off Sarah's protest. His hand found the small of Sarah's back, a possessive touch that looked casual to anyone watching. Sarah's face burned. She excused herself to the bathroom, escaping the jellies and the crowds and Luca's gravitational pull. In the sterile quiet of the women's restroom, Sarah gripped the edge of the sink and stared at her reflection. She looked different. Her hair was shiny. Nina had insisted on giving her expensive shampoo. Her skin was clear, stress acne receding now that she wasn't surviving on 3 hours of sleep and caffeine. Her clothes were new. Just a few basics, Luca had said, as if the cashmere sweater she was wearing hadn't cost $400. She looked like someone who belonged in Luca Moretti's world. And that was the problem. The bathroom door swung open. A woman walked in, 40-something, designer handbag, the look of someone who lunched at expensive restaurants and judged everyone. "Excuse me," the woman said, her tone making it clear she wasn't actually seeking permission. "Are you with the kindergarten group?" "Yes," Sarah said warily. "Is that Luca Moretti out there? With the dog?" Sarah's stomach tightened. "Why?" The woman's smile was sharp. "My husband works in real estate. He knows the Moretti family. They're very influential." She said the word like it was code for something darker. "I'm just surprised to see him at a kindergarten field trip. Didn't realize he had children." "He doesn't," Sarah said. "He's a family friend. Volunteering." "Family friend." The woman's eyes gleamed. "To you? Or to Emma?" The implication hung in the air. Sarah understood it immediately. This woman thought Sarah was Luca's mistress. Thought Emma was somehow connected to the Moretti empire through illegitimate channels. "Emma is my daughter," Sarah said coldly. "Luca is her godfather." The lie came easily, protective instinct overriding truth. "If you'll excuse me, of course." The woman's smile didn't waver. "I'm sure you're very Close. Sarah left the bathroom feeling like she'd been marked. Tagged as Luca's property in the social hierarchy of Chicago's elite. She found Luca in the penguin exhibit, surrounded by children. He was explaining something about Antarctic ecosystems, and the kids were hanging on every word. Dante sat beside him, tolerating a little girl braiding his ears with remarkable patience. Carlo caught Sarah's eye. He tilted his head toward the jellyfish room, a silent message. Sarah followed his gesture and saw the woman from the bathroom talking animatedly to another parent, both of them glancing toward Luca. The gossip was already spreading. "Hey!" Luca appeared beside her, Emma riding on his shoulders. "You okay? You look pale." "I'm fine," Sarah lied. "Just needed air." Luca's eyes narrowed. He saw through her, like he always did. "What happened?" "Nothing. Just people asking questions. About us. About why you're here." Understanding flickered across Luca's face. "Let them ask." "Luca, they think we're." Sarah couldn't finish the sentence with Emma within earshot. "Let them think whatever they want," Luca said quietly. "Their opinions don't matter." But they did matter. Because Sarah had to live in the real world. Emma had to go to school with these children whose parents were now gossiping about her mother's connection to the mob. The day proceeded. They saw sharks and stingrays. Emma got a stuffed beluga whale from the gift shop. They ate lunch in the cafeteria, and Sarah watched Luca cut Emma's sandwich into perfect triangles while discussing ocean acidification with another kindergartner. It was domestic. It was terrifying. It was everything Sarah had lost when Emma's father died, and everything she'd sworn she didn't need. On the bus ride back, Emma fell asleep against Sarah's shoulder, exhausted from excitement. Luca sat across the aisle, Dante's massive head resting on his lap. "Thank you," Sarah said quietly. "For today. She had fun." "So did I." Luca looked at Emma sleeping. "She looks like you. Same nose. Same stubborn chin." "She gets the stubbornness from her father," Sarah said without thinking. It was the first time she'd mentioned Emma's father to Luca. The first time she'd acknowledged that there had been someone before this strange new life. "Tell me about him," Luca said. Sarah should have refused. Should have kept that wall up. But something about the gentle afternoon, the exhaustion of playing normal, made the truth slip out. "David. We met in college. He was studying architecture. We got married young, probably too young. Emma was a surprise, a happy one, but still a surprise." Sarah's voice went soft. "He died 6 months after she was born. Car accident on the Kennedy Expressway. Drunk driver. David was coming home from a late shift." Luca's expression darkened. "They caught the driver?" "Yes. He got 10 years. Served 6. Sarah laughed bitterly. David's entire future, Emma's father, erased by 6 years in minimum security. "What was his name?" Luca's voice had gone cold. "The driver." Sarah looked at him sharply. "Why?" "Because I want to know." "Luca," he served his time. "It was 5 years ago. It's over." "Is it?" Luca leaned forward. "Because you're raising Emma alone. Drowning in debt from medical school, you finish while pregnant. Working 16-hour days because David's architecture firm offered you nothing when he died. Tell me, Sarah, does that feel like justice to you?" It didn't. It never had. Sarah had swallowed the rage because rage didn't pay bills or feed Emma. She'd buried the fury under survival instinct. "His name was Thomas Garrett," Sarah heard herself say. "But you're not going to do anything about it. He's already paid. He took a father from Emma. Took a husband from you. 6 years isn't payment. It's a joke." Luca's jaw was set. "But I won't act without your permission. I'm learning." The fact that he was asking, that he was restraining the impulse to immediately hunt down the man who destroyed Sarah's life, was almost more unsettling than if he'd just done it. "I don't want you to hurt him," Sarah said firmly. "I want you to let it go." Luca held her gaze for a long moment. Then he nodded. "Okay. Just like that. Just like that. You asked. I'm respecting your choice." He leaned back. "See, I can be trained." Despite everything, Sarah smiled. That night, after Emma was tucked into bed and Dante was sleeping peacefully in his orthopedic bed in the kitchen, Sarah found Luca in his study. The room was masculine, dark wood, leather, floor-to-ceiling bookshelves. Luca sat behind a massive desk, reading glasses perched on his nose, reviewing what looked like financial documents. He looked up when she entered. "Sarah, is Dante? Dante's fine." Sarah closed the door behind her. "I need to talk to you." Luca set down his pen, giving her his full attention. "I've made a decision," Sarah said. "About staying." The air in the room changed. Charged. "I'll stay," Sarah continued. "For now. Until the end of the school year. Emma's settled here. She's happy. Uprooting her in the middle of kindergarten would be cruel. And after the school year?" Luca's voice was carefully neutral. "We'll revisit. Talk about options. You're right that going back to my apartment doesn't make sense. But I need to find my own place. Build my own life. With my protection." It wasn't a question. Sarah nodded. "Yes. I accept that you're not going to stop protecting us. But I need boundaries, Luca. I need to work. I need my own income, my own purpose. I can't just be Dante's vet," Luca supplied. "You're kept woman," Sarah corrected. Luca stood up, walking around the desk. "You're not my kept woman. He paused, searching for words. "You're the woman I'm keeping safe. There's a difference." "Is there?" Sarah challenged. "Because from the outside, it looks the same. The parents at Emma's school already think I'm your mistress." "Then let's make them right." The words hit like a physical blow. Sarah's breath caught. Luca stepped closer. "I'm not good at this. At talking about feelings. My world doesn't work that way. But you need to know, what I feel for you isn't gratitude anymore. It hasn't been for weeks." "Luca! Let me finish." He took her hand, his thumb tracing her knuckles. "I'm not the man Emma's father was. I can't give you normal. I can't give you safe. What I do, who I am, it brings danger. It brings complications. But I can give you loyalty, protection, a home. And," his voice dropped, "I can give you everything you've been too afraid to ask for." Sarah's heart was racing. "I don't know what I want." "Yes, you do. You're just scared to admit it." Luca pulled her closer, eliminating the space between them. "You want to stop running. You want Emma to have stability. You want someone to share the weight you've been carrying alone for 5 years. And you think you're that someone?" Sarah whispered. "A man who breaks people's legs for threatening me? Who paid off my debts without asking? Who terrifies me as much as he?" She stopped. But Luca heard what she didn't say. "As much as I what?" His hand cupped her face. "Say it, Sarah." "As much as you make me feel safe," Sarah admitted. The truth tasted like surrender. "I hate that I feel safe with you. I hate that I'm starting to depend on this. On you." "Then stop hating it." Luca's forehead rested against hers. "Stop fighting. Stay. Not until the end of the school year. Stay." Sarah closed her eyes. She thought about Emma's laughter, about Dante's recovery, about the debt-free life she never thought she'd have, about the way Luca looked at her like she was something precious. "If I stay," Sarah said slowly, "it's not because of money. It's not because I'm afraid to leave. It's because I choose to. On my terms." "Name your terms." "I rebuild my clinic. I work. I'm not just Emma's mom and Dante's vet. I'm Dr. Sarah Chen, and I need that identity." "Done." "I'll fund the clinic." "No." Sarah pulled back. "I'll fund it. With the money you've paid me. It's mine. I earned it." Luca smiled. "Okay. What else?" "Emma comes first. Always. If your world ever threatens her, I'd burn my world down before letting it touch her," Luca said fiercely. "You know that." Sarah did know it. She'd seen it in the way he looked at Emma. The protectiveness that was almost feral. "And us?" Sarah asked quietly. "What are we?" Luca's answer was to kiss her. It wasn't gentle. It was claiming, possessive, the kiss of a man who'd been holding back for weeks. Sarah should have pushed him away, should have maintained the boundary. Instead, she kissed him back. When they finally broke apart, both breathless, Luca's eyes were dark with want. "We're family," he said simply. "That's what we are. And that's what we'll be. For as long as you'll have me." Sarah thought about running. About the life she could build somewhere else. But standing in Luca Moretti's study, his taste still on her lips, she realized the truth. She was already home. And terrifying as that was, it was also the safest she'd ever felt. 3 months later, Sarah stood in the lobby of her newly renovated clinic and felt something she hadn't experienced in years: pride. Mercy Paws had been reborn. Not with Luca's money, she'd been adamant about that, but with her own earnings, carefully budgeted and stretched. The space gleamed with fresh paint, new equipment purchased secondhand, and a waiting room that actually looked welcoming. "It's perfect, Mommy." Emma spun in circles, her voice echoing off the clean floors. "Can Dante come work here?" "Dante has a very important job at home," Sarah said, smiling. "Keeping Mr. Luca company." As if summoned, the front door opened. Luca walked in, Dante trotting beside him. The dog looked magnificent, healthy, muscular, his coat shining. A living miracle. "You came," Sarah said, surprised. "You think I'd miss your opening day?" Luca looked around, his expression unreadable. Then he smiled. "You did this yourself." "I did." Sarah couldn't keep the pride from her voice. "I open for patients Monday." "You'll be fully booked within a week," Luca predicted. "I may have mentioned to a few people that the best veterinarian in Chicago just opened a practice." "Luca, I didn't pay them to come," he said, raising his hands. "I just recommended you. Word of mouth. Completely legitimate." Sarah shook her head, but she was smiling. This was their rhythm now. Luca pushing boundaries, Sarah pushing back. Him protecting, her maintaining independence. It shouldn't work, but somehow it did. Emma ran to Luca, and he scooped her up effortlessly. "Are we still getting pizza tonight?" "Pizza and a movie," Luca confirmed. "Nina's making tiramisu." "What's tiramisu?" "Heaven," Luca said seriously. "Italian heaven." Sarah watched them, her heart doing that complicated thing it did now whenever she saw Luca with Emma. Love and fear twisted together, inseparable. That evening, after Emma was asleep and the house was quiet, Sarah found Luca on the terrace overlooking the garden. Spring had arrived, bringing green to the previously bare trees. "She's asking questions," Sarah said, joining him at the railing. "About us. About why we don't sleep in the same room." They'd been navigating this carefully, the relationship that existed in gestures and stolen kisses, but hadn't been defined. Luca had never pushed for more than Sarah was ready to give. "What did you tell her?" Luca asked. "That we're figuring things out." Sarah leaned against him. "Which is true." "And have you figured it out?" Sarah turned to face him. "I think I have." Luca's expression was carefully neutral, but she saw the tension in his shoulders. The hope he was trying to hide. "I love you," Sarah said. The words felt huge, terrifying. "I didn't want to. I fought it. But I love you, Luca. The way you are with Emma. The way you brought Dante back to life by refusing to give up. The way you protect us but still let me have my independence. The way you—" Luca kissed her, cutting off the words. This kiss was different from the first, not claiming but cherishing. When he pulled back, his eyes were suspiciously bright. "I've loved you since the night you walked into my kitchen at 3 a.m. and told me you could save him," Luca said. "Since you looked at my dying dog and saw hope instead of a lost cause. You saved Dante. And you saved me." "Your gratitude still terrifies me sometimes," Sarah admitted. "Good." Luca smiled. "It should, because I'm never letting you go." 6 months later, the house had completely transformed. Emma's artwork covered the refrigerator. Dante had his own room, absurd luxury that made Sarah laugh every time she saw his custom orthopedic bed and toy collection. Nina had stopped asking if Sarah needed anything and just anticipated it. Sarah's clinic thrived. Word spread about the veterinarian who performed miracles, about the doctor who'd saved Luca Moretti's dog when everyone else had given up. Patients came from across the city, and slowly, carefully, Sarah had rebuilt her life. On her terms, with Luca beside her, protective, possessive, but learning to let her breathe. The wedding was small. Just family, Emma, Nina, Carlo, a handful of Luca's trusted people. Emma was flower girl, wearing a purple dress she'd picked herself, scattering petals with chaotic enthusiasm. When Sarah walked down the makeshift aisle in the garden, she saw Luca's face and understood finally what his gratitude really was. Not possession, not obsession. Love, fierce and absolute and terrifying in its intensity. "You saved my dog," Luca said during his vows, his voice rough. And you saved me. Everything I am, everything I have, it's yours. You terrified me, Sarah said, tears streaming. Your gratitude, your protection, the way you took over my life. But you also gave me everything I was too afraid to ask for. A home, a family, safety, love. She kissed him before the officiant could give permission. Emma cheered. Dante barked. And Sarah Chen, now Sarah Moretti, realized that sometimes salvation came from the most unexpected places. Sometimes the monster who scared you most was the one who loved you best. Epilogue 1 year later, Sarah sat in Dante's custom room, now shared with a new addition. A 3-month-old cane corso puppy named Beatrice, a gift from Luca when Sarah had mentioned wanting to expand their family. I meant a human baby, Sarah had said, laughing. We'll get to that, Luca had replied. But Dante needed a sister first. Now she watched Dante gently teach Beatrice how to play, his patience infinite. Emma sat beside Sarah, sketching the dogs with the expensive art supplies Luca couldn't stop buying. Mommy, Emma said without looking up, when you saved Dante, did you know Mr. Luca would become my daddy? Sarah's throat tightened. Emma had started calling Luca Daddy 3 months ago. He cried, actually cried the first time. No, Bug. I didn't know. Are you glad he did? Sarah thought about that night. The desperate phone call. The dying dog. The terrifying man who'd offered her a fortune and then systematically dismantled every wall she'd built. She thought about the debts erased, the protection offered, the gratitude that had felt like a cage but became a home. Yes, Sarah said, pulling Emma close. I'm very glad. From the doorway, Luca watched them. Dante, the dog everyone had given up on, played with Beatrice. Emma, the daughter he'd claimed as his own, drew pictures of their family. And Sarah, the woman who'd saved everything, smiled at him with love that had conquered fear. His gratitude had terrified her, but his love had set them both free. Thank you so much for watching until the end. If you love the story, check out the other videos on your screen now. I think you'll really enjoy them. And don't forget to subscribe if you haven't already. See you in the next story.